What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. This is an update of the situation here. As you can see from the last time, we're missing a bumper, fenders. We changed the wheels. So the wheels that were on here weren't actually my wheels. Those were one of my friend's wheels. So I took those off and gave them back to him, and then I put these on here. These are RPF ones that I got. When I bought the car, they came with the car. I just didn't put them on, but since I had to take those off, I put these on. So we're running RPF 117s in the front, all around, actually. Square setup. Some meaty ass tires. Don't know where really I'm going with that. That's a lot of meat. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. So engine bay wise, what did we do so far? We deleted I deleted the brake master. It's gone. The engine harness is out. Also cleared up the ABS lines out of here and the fuel lines that run to the back along with the brake line in the back. The fuse box that was in here, took it out, moved it out here. I'm gonna do the same with this little fuse box right here. This one right here, along with all these wire harness here, is gonna be moved out here. I'm gonna try to shave the engine bay as much as I can. Also remove the heater core lines and whatever little other AC lines or water lines over here. I took them all out. The ones that were going across there, also took those out. So they cut out the brakes from right here and then right there, which was the lower rad support, and then they cut this one right here, right there, which was the I guess the frame support. We're gonna make back the frame support after we put the motor in, see where everything sits. We're probably gonna make a removable part that bolts onto here and here that comes in front of the motor. We still need to drill out the tack wells like we were doing here to remove these pieces flush. Then something I did notice from previously, the previous owner installed the upper control arms wrong. So he put the left side on the right side and the right side on the left side. If you can see right here, you see this gap right here is straight. This arm lights up straight. If you look at this one is tilted towards the back. That's because this arm is supposed to be on the other side. I'll show you. See, this one is tilted towards the back also, and this one is straight. It's because the S2000 control arms look exactly the same, but they have a slight difference right here to adjust the caster. So by him doing it this way, he basically moved the wheel forward because he put the wrong arm on the wrong side. So I need to swap them around so the wheel will go back in the right space so I can get the suspension geometry correct. The next thing we have to figure out is we need to fit the motor in here, but this power steering pump right here is too high. So we need to, let me show you how high it is. Do you see how high that is? So the motor has to sit right there. So we have to figure a way to lower this down without changing too much of the suspension geometry, which is possible because the angle kit that I have lowers the mounting point for the tie rods, so that way you can drive the car at a lower stance and still have straight geometry. So I'm assuming that if we put the angle kit on and then drop the rack, the suspension geometry should still be straight. Seeing as how I don't drive my drift cars low, I like them a little high for clearance. For example, right here on my van, the last drift car I had a gap like this. My 180 was a gap about this big, and that's because when you start to lean into the corners and you switch around, when you transition, this fender gap will tend to change. The wheel will go up and down, and if it's too low, it will hit the fender. It'll cause binding issues, sometimes break the fender depending on what you have. But yeah, so remove the harness from in here. The computer for the engine harness is actually underneath here. Let me show you. It's actually underneath here. It's right there. And then there's 3 plugs underneath here. You unplug and then you shove it through that hole right there. And then to remove the brake master, the brake booster and stuff, there's actually 4 bolts right up there. We're a pain to get to, but got to them. It was 4 12 bolts. But yeah, this rag top needs to go. I have to buy a new one. Just haven't gotten around to it yet. We'll get to that eventually. But yeah, so that's all done. Drive shaft is also out. So basically everything from the diff forward has been removed. So clear space for the motor and transmission to fit inside and see where everything lines up. I need to move this wiring outside, and then I need to strip the wiring. Basically delete everything that I no longer need, like all the ABS stuff and whatnot. Don't need that. The switches for the AC compressor, all of that, don't need that. I need to strip that out the wire harness and tuck that on the outside. Same thing with over here. The previous owner did some real like janky wiring. I don't know what the hell he was doing with that. And then he did like a really not a very good job of a battery relocation into the trunk. So I need to fix that, because if you look under here, show you real quick, right underneath here, that is his distribution block right there that he used, which is no good. So this car is pretty much a fire hazard. But yeah, all of that will get sorted out. So this is where we're currently at. I think sometime this week we're gonna try to mount the motor in here, try to get like an average of where everything is gonna sit. The one thing that's gonna really hold us back is the angle kit. I need to get that in. Well, it's shipped. I'm just waiting for it to get here, but as soon as that get here, then we can mount it, and then we can see how far we can drop the rack down to know how much space we have for clearance. Also, these are the Bilstein coilovers that the car came with. They're dual dampening ones, I believe they are. So there's a spring rate down here and then a spring rate up here, so you can adjust the dampening down to the exact how you want it, and the same thing in the rear. But yeah, that's pretty much how we're at right now. Everything is pretty much as is. Currently we have no brakes because I took everything out, so the only brake they can use is the handbrake to move it around. Also, the other thing is we're trying to, on top of trying to figure where, like how high the motor is going to sit, we need to figure out how far forward the motor has to sit with the transmission to get the shifter to line up exactly in the OEM spot. So that's kind of one of my main concerns. I need the shifter to line up in the OEM spot, because there isn't a relocation that I can just put on it and then like cut a hole here or something, because I really don't want to cut a hole in here. So like I was saying, we need the tranny to shift points to line up directly where the OEM shifter is, because this is my shifter here, and as you can see, you can't really relocate that shifter anywhere else. So I need that to sit right where the OEM part is. I don't want to cut a hole, because I want the interior to be as stock-ish looking as possible. But this is the transmission I'll be using that needs to go on there, and then this is the turbo setup that I'll be using. This was my old turbo setup. I'm going to be using the same exact one along with my intake manifold that's up there. And this right here, this is Clint's motor. I will be using his motor as a mock-up motor. So I'll put my intake and turbo setup, mount the tranny onto here, and use this to mock inside the car to make the motor mounts and transmission mounts, because my motor is currently not here. So we're gonna use his. And that tall man right there is Clint, and that's his right-hand man. That is the owner of Spirited Fabrication. Well, the only gentleman I'll let touch my car. I don't trust nobody else. He's currently building this thing over here. I don't know if you guys ever seen this. So this is a Datsun pickup that currently has a bike motor in it. This is a 1300cc bike motor that he's doing the exhaust work, motor mount setup, like all these brackets and motor mounts and everything. He built all those from scratch to fit in there and run. So right now he's doing the exhaust work. As you can see, his wells is on point, you know what I mean? My boy is a savage. So he's building the whole exhaust manifold from scratch to go out there. These are the collectors I believe he built for to merge the 4 into 1. But yeah, so that's currently what he's doing over there, and that's currently the plan for me right here. His motor, my tranny, my turbo, my intake, put it together, mock it in the car, and then make the motor mounts, and get going from there. But for now, it is what it is. This is where we at, you know what I'm saying? Just gotta trust the process. But here she is in all her glory.